Love and Friendship first appeared in the 1846 collection Poems by Currer, Ellis and Acton Bell. Currer, Ellis and Acton were the masculine-sounding pen names under which the sisters Charlotte, Emily and Anne Brontë respectively wrote, in the belief that authoresses, or female writers, were liable to be looked on with prejudice. Love and Friendship is one of 21 poems which Emily contributed to the collection. Emily, very shy from a young age, never married and had very few friends, either male or female, preferring to remain in the family home where her closest friend was her sister Anne. Her sister Charlotte, in the preface to Emily's novel Wuthering Heights, wrote of her, "My sister's disposition was not naturally gregarious, i.e. sociable. Circumstances favoured and fostered her tendency to seclusion, i.e. keeping herself to herself. Except to go to church or take a walk on the hills, she rarely crossed the threshold of home. Though her feeling for the people round was benevolent or kindly, intercourse or communication with them she never sought, nor, with very few exceptions, ever experienced. And yet she knew them, knew their ways, their language, their family histories. She could hear of them with interest and talk of them with detail, minute, graphic and accurate, but with them she rarely exchanged a word. It's unlikely, then, that her views on romantic love were formed by any of her own experiences, but rather by her observations and by the accounts of other people. It's unclear as to whether Brontë was just contemptuous of love in general, or whether this poem was intended to console a friend, either real or imagined, who was suffering from the end of a romantic affair. In the poem, Brontë, using the extended metaphors of the rose briar and the holly tree, compares romantic love with platonic love, i.e. the love that is felt for a friend. Her choice of two plants to explore her theme suggests that she sees relationships as natural and organic. She voices her opinion that, while romantic love may be beautiful and sweet, like the blooms on the rose briar, it also eventually withers and dies. Friendship, on the other hand, even though it is not as outwardly attractive or exciting, like the leaves on the holly tree, it is evergreen whatever the season, and is the only suitable adornment in the cold grey winter months when love has deserted you. If she were writing today, she would probably say, "Boyfriends come and go, but friends are always in style." The poem comprises 3 quatrains. The first 2 stanzas have a rhyme scheme of A, B, C, B, while the third has a rhyme scheme of A, B, A, B. The effect of the rhyme scheme changing in this way, so that each line has its rhyming pair, in the stanza where Brontë is urging her reader to find solace in friendship, provides a turning point and gives the end of the poem a sense of completeness and harmony. This is further enhanced by the fact that the final stanza also does not contain a rhetorical question, and so also evokes a feeling of certainty. The poem has a bass meter of iambic tetrameter, di-dum, 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 although Brontë does vary this substantially in the first stanza. The rhythm of the first 2 lines of the poem can best be described as headless iambic tetrameter, where the first unstressed syllable at the head of the line has been removed, effectively reversing the rhythm to a trochaic pattern, dum-de-dum-de-dum-de-dum, and ensuring a stressed syllable at both the beginning and the end of the line. Note that the word briar, although strictly speaking comprising 2 syllables, bry and r, should be treated as 1 syllable, i.e. as though it rhymes with the word fire. Bronte's diction is plain and simple. Most words are either mono or disyllabic, i.e. they have only 1 or 2 syllables, which helps to enhance her viewpoint that friendship is down to earth and dependable. Brontë also employs 3 of the 4 seasons as a metaphor for what she sees as the course of a romantic love affair. From the early excitement and the freshness of spring, through its full-blown stage in the heat of summer, to what she sees as its inevitable demise in the bleakness of winter. Note that spring and summer are dealt with and dismissed in a line each at the beginning of the second stanza, while winter features in the next 6, up to the poem's conclusion, conveying quite clearly Brontë's opinion of the transience of romantic love. The title, Love and Friendship, is a simple one, setting out the comparison of the 2 types of relationship which Brontë will explore in the poem. It's worth noting that her mind appears to be made up right from the start. She's not musing on the various merits of love and friendship before coming to a conclusion, but setting out a comparison about which she has very definite views. The poem begins with the 2 similes. Love is like the wild rose briar, friendship like the holly tree. A wild rose briar is a wild rose bush with long stems and sharp thorns. The inclusion of the adjective wild suggests that romantic love just springs up and cannot be controlled. In contrast to the uncontrollable nature of romantic love, friendship is instead like the holly tree, suggesting a substantial structure which is slow growing and well grounded with its roots firmly in the soil. The way in which Brontë chooses to write these 2 lines in headless iambic tetrameter, with stressed syllables at the beginning and end of both these lines, helps to enhance her conviction that her choice of simile is not only appropriate, but is also not open to debate. The dash at the end of the second line indicates that Brontë will elaborate on and justify these 2 statements. In the third line, the holly appears to be at a disadvantage, as it is dark when the rose briar blooms, i.e. in the spring and summer, when the rose briar is adorned with flowers, the holly appears sombre and unattractive, suggesting that it is perhaps forgotten and overlooked. She introduces doubt in the 4th line, however, that this superficial advantage is a compelling enough reason to favour it, introducing as she does a rhetorical question: which will bloom most constantly, with a coordinating conjunction but, suggesting that the beauty of romantic love may only be ephemeral. In the second stanza, Brontë describes the attributes of the wild rose briar, which is sweet in spring, while its summer blossoms scent the air. Note the sibilance in these lines, the softness of which enhances the plant's beauty, as she focuses on the senses of both taste and smell. These are quickly dismissed, however, with a coordinating conjunction yet, which means but or however. Yet wait till winter comes again, and who will call the wild briar fair? The arrival of the inevitable cold weather, because it seems for Emily Brontë all romantic love affairs are doomed to failure, will of course make the flowers drop. The use of another rhetorical question here, with the unspoken response, no one, conveys Bronte's view that the remaining plant will now be nothing at all to look at. The soft sibilance of the first 2 lines of the stanza abruptly disappears to be replaced with the plosive consonants of the t sounds in yet, wait till winter, and the hard w sounds in the alliterated wait, winter, will and wild, which help to make this second rhetorical question seem harsh. In the third stanza, Brontë suggests that both love and friendship are something that we wear. Then scorn the silly rose wreath now, and deck thee with the holly's sheen. No longer wild and growing free, the flowers have been picked and woven into a rose wreath or a circular headdress, upon which she, using the imperative mood, urges the reader to turn their back, because it has now become silly, with its withered blooms, and is no longer fit to wear. The word wreath also has connotations of funerals and death, and perhaps alludes to the death of romantic love. Note how Brontë seems no longer to be talking about love and friendship in general, as she brings the reader into the poem through direct address, which suggests that she may have had a particular friend in mind whom she wished to console. Note also how the sibilants of scorn and silly, rather than the softness of the previous stanza, now takes on a hissing quality which helps to convey the contempt for romantic love that she urges her reader to feel in order to comfort themselves. Instead, they should deck or adorn themselves festively with the holly's sheen. Now that the holly is no longer being eclipsed by the showy beauty and fragrance of the rose briar, its glossy texture, which was there all along, can be finally seen and appreciated. In other words, now that romantic love is not blinding the reader, they can finally appreciate the more subtle beauty of the friendship that was there all the time. The poem finishes, that when December blights thy brow, he still may leave thy garland green. The verb blights means spoils or ruins, and thy brow is another way of saying your forehead. In other words, in the months when love is cold and your sadness is clearly visible on your face, you can feel reassured because your friendship is still there to give you solace. Instead of the withered rose wreath of love, you will be wearing the glossy green garland, another word for a wreath worn around the head, of friendship. Note Bronte's use of sound patterning in these final two lines in the poem. The plosive b sound in December is picked up in the alliterated blights and brow and helps to convey the idea of the rejected lover's misery, while the alliteration of the g sound in garland green and the assonance of the long e sounds in leave and green end the poem on a soothing note. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments section below and I'll do my best to answer them. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more videos on English language topics and exam techniques and English literature texts.